Hello, and welcome to the channel. Last week, we decided to do a trip to Puerto Plata during our stay here in the Dominican Republic. Puerto Plata is in the northern part of the island, and we struggled with finding information and a route to get there. So hopefully this information will help you. This was not a pre-planned trip, so we wanted to do this trip because we're not really sure when we will return back to the Dominican Republic, and we wanted to see as much of the island as possible. Now, to plan this trip, I use a website that I frequently use. It's a great resource if you're trying to plan a trip. It is called Rome to Rio. You put in your starting point and destination, and it lists various options for you to get to your destination. Unfortunately, all of the options required either a lot of time or money, but that's the case with most things, right? Either time or money. So we could do a private van tour for $350 each way, or fly for $230 plus per person each way, or take the bus. Since we have the time, my hubby is retired and I am semi-retired, we decided to take the bus. Now, there isn't, unfortunately, as far as we could find, a direct bus that would take us from Punta Cana directly to Puerto Plata. So we had to take a bus from Punta Cana to Santo Domingo, catch an Uber over to another bus company, Caribe, and then on to Puerto Plata. We got an Uber from our Airbnb and rode to the Bavaro station. Now, there are two buses that go to Santo Domingo. I'm not quite sure if I'm saying this correctly, but I'll spell it for you, and you also see it on the side of the bus. APTPRA, APTPRA, and Bavaro Express. They are literally right next to each other. So we decided to use APTRA when we went on this particular trip because we'd heard from a local that that was a pretty good bus. I'm sure Bavaro Express is just a greater bus, but we didn't take that one. So this is our experience with this particular bus. Now, the bus that we chose was APTPRA. And some locals recommended this particular bus. Also, it's really nice because they also accept credit cards if you want to get the points. And as you'll see in some of my videos that I'll be doing going forward, or if you're looking at this sometime in the future, you'll see going back, using points has been a critical part of our strategy to be able to travel the way we do. So it was 550 pesos, which is about $10 each for each one of us, Kevin and I, to go to Santo Domingo. And the ride was approximately 2.5 hours. But don't get excited. It was a very long travel day. Now, the buses for APTPRA, if I'm saying it correctly, the buses were really nice. We've taken buses in the past in Mexico, and those are fabulous. So these buses are great, but I still think the ones in Mexico are better. But these were really nice as well. They had Wi-Fi, and they also have a bathroom on the bus. Pro tip, if you need to use the restroom, make sure you bring your own toilet paper if you want to use it. They did not have any toilet paper, and fortunately with me, because I do have to do a lot of pit stops, I had my own tissue with me. Also, dress warmly because the bus is cold. Even people from Canada, from other places they're used to the cold, they thought the bus was cold. So we had on jeans, long sleeve shirts, and I had my hoodie to try to stay warm because I thought it was really cold. Now you can adjust the temperature above your head, but overall the bus itself was pretty cold. Now, as of this particular recording, which we struggled to find a whole lot of information all on the websites for these different times, the times that APTPRA left Bavaro was at 5:50 a.m., 7 o'clock a.m., 9 o'clock a.m., and 11 o'clock a.m. So we took our Uber from our Airbnb, went to the station, Bavaro, the Stazione Uno, and we left there at 9 o'clock a.m. Okay, the ride along the coast was beautiful. I did sleep a little bit at the beginning, well, in the middle of the trip. This portion of the trip was interesting because there were several stops along the route, and they literally stop on the side of the road. I was like, at least the ones I've caught in Mexico, they actually go to a bus station, and the station is sort of like a train station or airport. Um, this particular bus, now this particular route, this is just my experience, they literally stopped on the side of the road, and people would get on and get off. But this was interesting because we know some Spanish, but not a whole lot. But I'm learning. I'm using my Duolingo, and I'm learning a lot. And every time I take a trip, I get better at it, I feel. But they kept asking us, where are you guys going to get off? And I'm like, So you want to stay on the bus until the last station in Santo Domingo. So you need to just stay on the bus. And no, I don't want to get off. Stay on until they get to the last station in Santo Domingo. So once we got to Santo Domingo, we had to, and this is what's nice about Rome to Rio, it'll tell you that. It'll give you the different options, and it'll say, if you decide to take the bus, you got to do the bus. And I think in Rome to Rio, they want us to get off the bus, get on the metro, walk to the station. So we're like, no, we're not going to do that. So we got off the bus and we took an Uber over to the other bus company that went from Santo Domingo to Puerto Plata. And we took the Uber over to the Caribe station. And the Uber ride was only about 15 minutes. It really wasn't that far. You probably could walk it. But we didn't know where we were going. We wanted to make sure we caught the next bus because, again, we didn't have a whole lot of information about the bus schedules and what time they left. And so we wanted to get there as soon as possible so we wouldn't be in the middle of missing one bus or the other. But the traffic on that particular day was terrible. It was a Thursday, and the traffic was horrible. But we were able to get over there. The Uber ride was pretty inexpensive. It was 300 pesos, which comes out to be about $5.30. So we got our tickets. We went to the Caribe bus station. We got our tickets. There's when you first walk in, there's a ticket counter, and you go around the corner up to the right, and then there's like a bank of counters there. And we asked them for a boleto, a ticket to Puerto Plata. Now the tickets for Puerto Plata for both of us was 1,100 pesos, which is about $19. So fortunately, when we got there, we only had to wait about 20 minutes. So got a chance to go to the bathrooms. The bathrooms were really clean. You just have someone in there cleaning it, and they ask you to leave a tip or whatever. So we went in there, used the restroom, and then they called for our bus. Just make sure you're listening. And they said Puerto Plata, and so we hopped on that bus. That bus left at 1:30 p.m. and we arrived at 5:30 p.m. Now, the ride to Puerto Plata was a little bit different than the ride from Punta Cana. Puerto Plata was through the mountains. And this ride for me was a little harrowing. It's a little scary because I thought he was going a little fast. But, the other people were sleeping. They didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. But it was a little scary. But we got there safely. And like I said, this particular bus was pretty nice as well. It was a nice bus too. So this was our trip from Punta Cana to Puerto Plata by bus. The total cost for one way to get from Punta Cana to Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic, it cost us time-wise about 8.5 hours Because we got there about 5:30, and as far as money, it cost us about 30 US dollars for the buses and about 530 for the Uber. So total about 35, 36 bucks. Can't beat that for an all day trip. And I actually, because they had Wi-Fi, I could do some work on the bus, take a nap, and that kind of thing. So if you're prepared, it's not too bad. And I would only do this, like in our case, we were here in the Dominican for almost 3 weeks. So we had the time to do that. But if you're on a short trip, I probably wouldn't recommend it. But if you're here for a month, so I know a lot of people, digital nomads and other people who are traveling for a while. So if you're for long term, if you're a slow traveler like we are, I would definitely do it again. Now, going back to Punta Cana from Puerto Plata, of course, you do pretty much everything in the reverse. But this time we started earlier because we couldn't find a schedule for when the buses, when they were leaving in the morning. And so we just said, okay, we're going to get there early. So we got up early. We left our Airbnb on Sunday at 6:15 a.m. We could not find an Uber. And speaking of Uber, you'll see that in my Puerto Plata video. Uber is a total different thing in Puerto Plata. So anyway, we ended up taking a taxi because our Airbnb was not far from the square there. And we went up there and they had, people there were willing to take you. So we couldn't get an Uber. And the sign, we finally got to the bus station. The sign at the bus station desk said that the buses were leaving at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., etc. So we left our Airbnb at 6:15. It took us only 15 minutes. We were there by 6:30, got in line. There was actually a bus there. And we purchased our ticket. And the lady was like, yeah, get on that bus, autobus, key, that one. So we said, okay. So we were prepared to leave at 7 a.m. However, the bus that was there left at 6:30 when we got there. And so we hopped on that one. So I don't know. That's the sign they had on the little thing. So I don't know if this particular bus was early or late, or if it was an early bus, or it is when you get there. I don't know. But that's the schedule they had: 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 9 a.m., and then etc. So we left at 6:30 a.m. and we arrived at Santo Domingo at 9:40 a.m. So this actually was faster in the morning, and I don't know because it's earlier, but I'm also thinking because it was a Sunday as well. So Sunday mornings not as busy. Now, this was interesting. There was an interesting incident that occurred on the bus. We stopped, like I said, this place, Caribe, usually they would stop at different stations, but this particular time they stopped on the side of the road. So that was kind of strange. And I was like, okay. And at this one location, an immigration official got on the bus. He had him just dressed in regular plain clothing, but his hat said, I am, immigration or whatever. So he started going down the aisle and he stopped at us. So I'm like, okay. So I was like, okay. I said, do we look different? Because we were African American and most of the people in the bus were Black Dominicans or some other nationalities or whatever. But so he stopped in front of us and he said, hey, he said something in Spanish. We're like, no comprende. We're trying to figure out. So, sign language, whatever. So we realized, okay, he wants to see our passports. So we showed him our passports. And he's like, okay, English, whatever. Smiled and gave it back to us. And then he kept going towards the back of the bus. He went to the back of the bus and he talked to some people in the back. And then he asked two people to go with him. And they got off the bus and then we started taking off. Now, from the conversation on the bus after we left with those people having to get off the bus with the immigration guy and our limited Spanish and bits and pieces, what we think happened, we gathered that the men were Haitian. They were Haitian. And so I don't know if they didn't have their passport, if they were here illegally or what, but there was some sympathy for those two guys that were asked to get off the bus. But just from the conversation we overheard, it sounds like they were Haitian, those two men that had to get off. So, pro tip, Make sure you carry your passports when you're traveling between cities in any country. We learned that valuable lesson when we were living in Europe. Always carry your passports to be safe. So they'll know if you ever have to show your papers, you'll have your papers. Okay, so once we arrived in Santo Domingo at 9:40 a.m., we caught the Uber back over to the Apt Pra station. And then I realized in Santo Domingo, the Bavaro bus is next to that station too, just like it was in Bavaro Express bus. Is right next to the Apt Pra bus as well, stationed there too. So just like wherever one bus station's at, the next one's right there with it. Now the Caribe bus station was huge. It's a huge one, lots of buses. So this must be a huge company. But it was only about a 10-minute ride on Sunday morning for us to take the Uber over because the traffic was much better on a Sunday morning. Now the Apt Pra times for that bus, if I'm saying it correctly, APTPRA, they were listed at 7 a.m., 9 a.m., 11 a.m., and 1 p.m. And it goes on through the afternoon, a couple more times. So we ended up getting on the 11 a.m. bus. It left at 11 a.m. We rode to Punta Cana, and we asked to get off at the Frusa station. But we realized when the guy was going through Punta Cana, he actually stopped at a resort apartment complex near where we were staying our Airbnb. So we asked to get off, and he said, yeah, you can get off here with these guys here instead of going back to the station. So that's what we did. Both days on this bus ride to Puerto Plato, they were long travel days, and I really don't enjoy travel days at all. But it's a necessary evil. It's how you're going to get from one place to another. So you just suck it up and do it and make the best of it and try to enjoy it. So these were long travel days, but it was nice because we were able to see another part of the country, and we really enjoyed our stay in Puerto Plata. I'm so glad we went. I definitely thought that the return trip was better because we were up early and the day didn't seem as long. So we got back here about 2:30, so much better. It didn't seem as long, even though we basically, and then we're morning people anyway, so we kind of front loaded our day. So hopefully that helped. This information was helpful for you. If so, please like and subscribe to our channel. And once again, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.